ArtRage is one of my favorite apps for painting watercolor. I've been using the desktop version for 16 years, and I still use it when a project needs a larger size brush than I can get on the iPad. I downloaded ArtRage when I got my first generation iPad, and even though there was no stylus, I loved what I could paint with just my fingers. Now I'm using the 11-inch iPad Pro and Apple Pencil. The older version of ArtRage is glitchy on these new iPads, so make sure you're using the newest version, ArtRage Vitae. Today I want to show you how I use ArtRage Vitae to paint watercolors. This won't be an in-depth overview of all the tools and features, just the ones I go to when I paint watercolors. And even though I've used it for many years, I don't claim this is the right way. It's just the way that makes sense to me. Hopefully it'll spark something for you, and you'll discover a new app for your creativity. Oh, and I'll just mention that ArtRage didn't sponsor this. I just love the app. To speed things up so we can focus on just the watercolor tools, I already sketched out a landscape to get started. We're going to take a look at ArtRage right now, and we sketched this out using the pencil tool. And now we're going to look at the watercolor options. This is the watercolor tool, and when we started this, we have this on one layer, and we want, we need a new layer, and we want to put this, I like to put this on the top and set the blend mode. Instead of the blend mode set to normal, I'm going to set it to multiply so we can see all the layers beneath it. And that's one advantage to doing it traditionally. That's one advantage because the pencil lines will remain visible for the whole time until I can hide this layer if I want. And now I make sure I'm on this new layer, and down here, any brush that you choose, this is the size. If you touch it, you can type in, or you can hold it and tell it how large the brush will be. You can do fine detail work or all the way up to 100%. And 100%, let's say we want to work on the sky. So let's just pick a nice, light sky color. We'll save it. And again, make sure you're on the right layer. And these are the settings for the brush. And you'll notice that you can choose, I use delicate on dry for most everything, and just water. Those are the two that I use more than anything. So I want delicate on dry. The brush is at 100%, but when I start to paint, even at 100%, that's not a very, I want a big wash, and that's too small. And if it's at 100%, you would think you couldn't get any bigger. But if you just touch this, you'll notice it's gray, but you can tell it. It will go up to 500%. That's the maximum on the iPad. And now when I go in here, the brush is much bigger. I can just kind of block in some color. And I can just block in the sky. And something that I would normally do in the real world, I want the edges to bleed out with color. That's just personally something that I like to do. So the way I do it is I choose just water. And now when I just kind of touch that, you notice that just kind of blends to gives it a softer edge, as if I just took the brush, dipped in water, and touched the edge. I also go in here with just water and I remove, it's like erasing, but I'm not erasing. I could use the eraser tool, but that's a hard edge. This gives me that soft water, but it's like if I were to brush the area and sop that up with a paper towel. That's what I liken this to. But you'll notice there's something, and it may not be obvious right now, but even though I'm using just water, this pigment is still in the brush, and so it will even paint with that color the longer you hold it down. So just to be aware, if you've got darker colors, why is it that color is still appearing? Normally that's fine, but if I have a very different color loaded into the brush and I'm trying to erase, that purple or a green, some odd color will start to appear. So now I can say, okay, I've got a sky blocked in. If I go in and decide I want to start working on the mountains, and I pick some newer color for the mountains and make sure that I grab my delicate on dry brush, and we'll say that that's the color I'm looking for. But now when I go up here, it starts to touch the sky and it starts blending all like it would in the real world. That color starts mixing, and all of a sudden it's changing the color. That's not the color that I want. It's mixed this with the blue. It's given me a different. So normally I would blow this dry and then do the color that I want. So by making a new layer, now whatever I do on this layer won't interact with anything down here. So now when I do this, you'll notice that it'll work even over the sky, if that's what I wanted. So I can just kind of focus on the contour. And I get kind of, I'm not worried about boundaries too much, because I will then go back in here and get just the water, and then I can control where I don't want that. And I can also soften that edge. So now, let's say I want to bring it up one more layer. You work from the back to the front, so now I'm going to come up to these hills right here, making a new layer. And make sure that I've got this brush, and I will darken the color and saturate the color just a little bit as it moves closer to the viewer. So see how that goes. And if that's not quite what I was looking for, I can undo it, Give me a new color. Maybe I want it a little desaturated or a little darker. And say, yeah, maybe that's a little more what I was looking for. I go back in, get my little brush full of water, and do a little experimenting. And so now I want to come up one more layer here. Making another layer. Now these are even close. Well, actually, I'm going to do this little hill in between here and the foreground. I've still got this little middle ground area there. I want to take that a little bit into a greener. Whoops. I'll do that often. I'll go, why didn't it paint? Oh, because I'm just painting with just water. I have to go in, get that brush. Now I'll just get some water and lighten some of that area if I feel like. And here I'm just, when I'm doing watercolor I like to keep it loose in these early stages because sorry, it's hard to paint and talk at the same time. This is the area of focus. So I want to establish a really loose feel for most everything. I'm going to make a new layer. Actually, this is going to be a little bit of some water over here, so I'm going to come back to the sky. If you hold your stylus very still and touch and hold, it will slurp up whatever color is underneath. And now I can, this area right here, oops, again, that was just water. Painting with water. So now I can take this up in the sky. And now these mountains here, the reflection of those I want down here, I want those on that mountain layer. And I can do these on the same layer because they're not going to go up and mix with each other. Give me some of that mountain color. Block this in. I want to do this foreground here, so this was the topmost layer. I'm going to make a new layer and make sure I've got my right brush, delicate on dry. And now I'm going to start with this color, but I want it a little darker and more saturated. And I just want to come in here. There's this one little hill, and I'm going to get some water and kind of soften that up. Soften this edge. And when you lay down some color and decide, I like the effect of it, but it feels a little darker than I wanted. But rather than undo it and try to repaint it, what I do is I take this layer and you look at the options and you can adjust the opacity. So I can move that back a little bit. If I go too far, it starts, you know, you can take it where it starts to feel right. And yeah, that's more what I had in mind. Now I want something in front of this. So I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to saturate it, darken it just a little bit. Nope. Water again. Delicate on dry. And just take this foreground. And now I can soften some of those edges that I want. Not happy. Don't like those. Try it again. You know, it just takes a couple times. Nope, nope. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. You can goof around with stuff all day. Now in between this layer and here, this little color, actually, I'm going to go to this mountain layer right here. And something here, I want to take this color, and I am still with just water, but this area right here, I want to lighten that up. Now there's something right in here that is like white gravel, white rock that is picking up some of the color of the sky. So if I pick up some of that and make a new layer in between this, let's see, this, the green, and this one right here, I'm going to make a new layer and make sure I'm not painting with water, delicate on dry, and I can take this and just kind of block this in, but it's way too strong. So I'm going to get just water and soften some edges, soften where I don't want it. But I can take this also, and I don't want it that as bright as the sky. They're white rocks, but they're picking up some of that. The main camera had stopped recording the iPad screen. I went ahead and finished the painting later. Here are a few of the stages leading up to the final. This should be enough to let you get a sense of how to use ArtRage for watercolor, how I use ArtRage. I hope you found something useful in this video. Please like and subscribe so I can continue to make more. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos about ArtRage. Thanks for watching.